If I had a nickel for every time Hoyo has made a character who refuses to wear shoes and also happens to be adopted by a giant robot dad, I'd have 2 nickels. Which, to be honest, isn't a lot, but it's weird that this keeps happening. Hey y'all, it's Tillian here, and today I wanted to break down the first character in the upcoming 2.2 ZZZ patch, Seed. Seed's actually a pretty interesting character in a lot of ways. For one, she pilots a giant mech that she can summon occasionally on field, and two, she plays in the well-known attacker class, but really shakes it up considerably from what we've seen in the past. So what we'll do today is break down her kit, how I believe she will play, and why that makes her different from every other attack agent in the entire game, as well as the normal things like disc sets, engine options, possible team synergies, and lastly, my thoughts on her and suggestions on if she would be a great fit for your account. So without further yap, let's dive into Seed. Seed is an electric DPS agent with a heavy team-wide support capability as well as heavy on-field DPS capabilities. She is a heavy resource gathering and spending gameplay loop agent with great animations, flashy gameplay, and requires a bit of buff management from her party. She's an attack agent that requires another attack agent to get the majority of her kit and opens the door to further synergies within a double attack team synergy moving forward. Looking at Seed's core skills, there's a lot of words here, but I'll try my best to summarize this as best I can. Seed's core skill really though just breaks down and explains her Vanguard mechanic and then the buffs that it provides both her and the team. The Vanguard mechanic is simply a state that Seed puts on an agent on the team with the highest base attack. What this really allows though is for Seed to mark them to be buffed and to buff her via the onslaught and direct strike mechanics. Onslaught will give Seed 1000 attack and 30% crit damage, and direct strike will give the Vanguard the 1000 attack and 30% crit damage. If both buffs are active, they also receive a 25% damage increase as well. This means that we're going to want to try to keep these buffs up permanently. This should be fairly easy to achieve with both parties starting the battle with these buffs and a 40-second refresh timer. How you refresh these is pretty simple. You're just going to want to use an EX special on the other party. So for example, if you would like to refresh Onslaught, whenever your Vanguard uses an EX special, it will refresh it, and vice versa. Whenever Seed uses her EX special, the direct strike buff will be refreshed. So you'll be in this cycle of using EX special on both Seed and the other attack agent on the team. And then the last portion of the kit is really going to be her kind of resource gathering, gaining 0.5 points of her resource for every 1 energy spent by your Vanguard, trying to incentivize you to use both her and the Vanguard agent on the team. When we look into her additional abilities, this is where we're going to find the second portion of the synergy, rewarding us for pairing Seed with an attack agent. When she's paired with an attack agent, she's going to deal 25% more damage via most of her kit, as well as gaining a 25% electrical resistance ignore. She's also going to be able to fund energy into the Vanguard. This helps restore some of that energy that maybe an on-field attack agent would normally get, helping keep up that EX special buff requirement. Seed's basic attack skill is going to house a large portion of her rotational gameplay, as well as a lot of her resource expenditure portions of her kit. Seed will complete a basic 4-hit combo that allows you to then trigger a follow-up called Falling Petal Slaughter, where Seed Senior is then summoned onto the field and then punches the enemy with a mega punch that's pretty cool. Where things get really interesting is that at 120 steel charge, you can manually activate this ability just by holding the basic attack. When she has 120 steel charge, she can then use the enhanced version of this, leading into the Falling Petals Downfall. This is again achieved by reaching 120 steel charge and after using Slaughter and or the ultimate, so you can chain this from different perspectives. After either requirement is met, you either hold or press basic to activate the Downfall first form, which automatically follows up with its second form using a combined 120 steel charge. As you can see, the gameplay loop here is based around building up steel charge and then releasing her enhanced basic attack. As you can see from this gameplay loop, it's based around building up steel charge and then releasing her enhanced basic attack. This can be done off of a 4-hit combo manually via the hold once you reach 120 of her steel charge, or after an ultimate, giving us plenty of options to do this when and how we see fit based on the reactions that we need to do in real time. We can take a glance at her assist and dodge, but neither are particularly noteworthy and do not require any further details. Seed's EX special is titled Raining Iron Petals and effectively is just a flight mode for Seed Senior. He goes up into the air and you can kind of control him a little bit. He's going to shoot down missiles and lasers and literally anything else you can think of, and basically creates a giant laser light show. You can extend the duration of this attack by holding down the skill, which will then continuously use more and more energy. However, once you release that skill, it will immediately consume the 60 energy to activate it, activating then the second portion of that skill named Raining Iron Petals away, which effectively just slams Seed to the ground and does a lot of electric damage. All right, and last but not least, we have the chain attack section here, which houses both her chain and ultimates. The chain attack is really nothing to write home about. However, the ultimate is one of the most unique in the game. It's a lengthy animation where we move into the first person perspective and specifically Seed's perspective. And we see as she fires what I can only describe as every single piece of munition on Seed Senior at one time. I think it's actually a pretty impressive display. It looks fun to watch. I can't wait to try it myself. All right, now that we've looked at her kit, let's look at Seed's possible disc sets. She's releasing with a brand new disc set named Dawn's Bloom. This is a fully dedicated basic attack buffing set that actually double dips with the 2-piece and the 4-piece, both increasing basic attack damage. What this means to me is that we're likely going to want to run Woodpecker Electro in the 2-piece slot, as this is going to help with the much needed crit, as her kit does not provide her with a large amount of crit. Even if you have her signature weapon, which does provide her with more crit, I could see instances where your crit values may be, at least appear to be, lower than other agents. And lastly, looking at her engines, we know that her signature engine will be her best in slot option. In regards to alternatives, I don't feel comfortable giving my specifics out yet, seeing as we're still seeing changes in the beta as early or late, depending on your perspective, as early this week. I think we're gonna see a couple of the normal ones pop up that we're used to. I think Brimstone will be a fine option. I think that Steel Cushion could be a fine option. I think Haramassa's is going to be a very good alternative if you happen to have it. Outside of that, the normal things that we see like Heartstring Nocturne will be a solid option as well. Severed Innocence Sambies is going to be a curious option, as it does provide literally almost everything that Seed can use. However, you're not going to be able to get the full amount of stacks because you won't be able to do aftershocks. However, it also doesn't give any crit rate. It adds a ton of crit damage and electrical damage, which all of things Seed would like. However, the lack of crit rate is concerning to me, and I would need to see those numbers played out before I could recommend it as an option. But keep that in mind as we get closer and closer to Seed's release. Okay, so now that we've done all of that, what are my thoughts? Who is Seed for, and do I recommend her for your account? And realistically, it's a very difficult situation to be in because I don't have the foresight to answer this question, because we're bringing in a brand new double attack meta. It really is going to depend on how much Koyo ends up making the double attack meta a complementary piece, as Seed sets up to be this linchpin for it, as she's kind of this support main DPS hybrid, and we've yet to see the other pieces come into play that really battery that team format, right? So it really is going to depend on what we see in the near future. Orphe obviously being an option, as she has a ton of off-field capabilities. So I don't have the foresight of information to tell you whether she's going to be meta defining or not. She's also a very character specific unit. To me, makes it difficult to recommend for anybody that has a medium to high investment account. If you have a very low investment account, or if you're a brand new player, you can pull Seed, you can put the pieces in play that make her run really well. She works with a lot of the free characters you get during the main play of the story. allowing her to function very easily, right? So if you're a brand new player, or if you're a low investment player, I can highly recommend Seed because she's going to do her job very well. But if you're someone that's been building and trying to put these pieces together, or you've been investing into like the Aftershock teams, for example, you're gonna have to pivot away from what you've already done in order to make her function, as there's so many pieces that's required for Seed to operate at the highest level. And if you have those pieces, it's difficult for me to tell you that you need to pivot away from resources that you've already spent versus using those resources as wisely as you can. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up my thoughts on Seed. And I know it sounds really negative maybe, but I really like Seed, actually. I think her kit is super well designed. I think it's interesting. I think that a double attack meta is a cool idea. I just think the timing, number one, is poor. I think making her electric is probably going to be a detriment for a lot of people. Unfortunately, because it's such a new concept and attack has also been kind of in a rough place, it's difficult for us to really see what the future lies. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I've yapped long enough. Hopefully I gave you enough good information to make a good decision for your account. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll try to answer any and all of those as I can. I appreciate you guys so much. If you liked what I do here, please give me a like or a sub. It means the world to me. Thank you guys so very much. If you want to see us do this stuff live, where we break down characters, talk about pull plans, and help you out with your endgame clears, please drop over at twitch.tv/DillianPlay. A great time over there. We think we have a great community we're building. But yeah, I appreciate all of you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll catch you guys next time. Dillian out.